Good afternoon and hello, everyone. I'm very glad that you've joined me during this US holiday week. I know a lot of people are on vacation this week, but we decided to bring back our cost control demo to give everybody another look at the best way to manage your costs across clouds. As a quick housekeeping note, please enter those questions into the Q&A panel right about here. Please don't enter them into the chat. We have to clean those up. Please enter them in the Q&A panel. That helps us get those questions answered. If you ask a question, you're entered to win a prize. That prize this week is a $100 Best Buy gift card. And all of this is being recorded. You'll be able to go to youtube.com/expedient, go.expedient.com/webinar replays, instagram.com/_expedient, and linkedin.com/company/expedient to view those recordings. You'll also get a link in your email. Do me a favor, give me a follow on all those socials too. That'd be really helpful for us. For those of you who are new to Expedient, we started 20 years ago. Started doing co-location, which at the time was the best and brightest thing that was available because people needed data center space. Today, we have 12 data centers in 8 cities. In 2007, we released virtual co-location to provide virtual hosting and to provide the first entry into cloud for VMware-powered workloads for our customers, because this is at the start of virtualization and we wanted to be ahead of the game for our customers. Today, that's evolved into our enterprise cloud. In 2015, we released push-button DR to provide DR as a service for our customers. We had heard all of the struggles that they had maintaining second data centers and hardware. And so we wanted to provide the fastest failover in the industry with full network failover to solve the problems with disaster recovery. In 2018, we released Enterprise Cloud, the full cloud operating model for VMware workloads without all the refactoring. And that's the extension of what we started in 2007 with our virtual co-location platform. And last year, we released Cloud Native to power app modernization with fully managed Kubernetes, persistent container storage, and full observability that sits right on top of our enterprise cloud, allowing you to put your co-location, enterprise cloud, and cloud native apps all together. And that sounds like you're managing a lot of different things. You're not. They're co-managed services with Expedient. But one of the challenges, again, that we hear from customers to try and meet demands and try to stay ahead of the game is that our customers are using more than one cloud. And we don't take any real offense to that because we recognize that not all clouds are the right fit for every single workload. We kind of talked about that for all of March in our MultiCloud Madness series. And we've seen going forward that most of our customers are utilizing more than one cloud to try and gain the best and best capabilities out of each of those clouds. In fact, our informal survey shows that more than half of our respondents are using more than one cloud. Analyst surveys say that more than half are using more than one cloud. And so solving the problems of the various capabilities of these clouds and how to take the best advantage of them is something that we decided to put our knowledge and expertise to. And so it starts with the main interface, right? Just even logging into any of these systems, they have 5 different interfaces with 5 different sets of services, whether that's on-prem, enterprise cloud, or any of the hyperscalers. You have different capabilities. You have differing needs. You have differing abilities and services with which to use inside of these individual platforms. Maybe you don't have a big data platform on-prem, but you do in AWS, or maybe you're utilizing mainframes on-prem, but not have that ability in Azure, right? Your applications aren't necessarily a homogeneous group that can be moved into one cloud or another. You need to utilize the best of breed capabilities. And not only that different interfaces, they have different bills and different billing models. On-prem is incredibly CapEx heavy. It's really, really heavy in terms of I need to spend this amount of money on hardware. I'm going to run that for 4 years. And at the end of those 4 years, I replace it and do the same thing over and over again. And so making change doesn't come very often because of the big CapEx purchase that goes into that. On the cloud side, it's very OpEx heavy. How do I spend this? I'm spending $1,000 this month. I might spend $5,000 next month. I might spend $2,000 the month after that. And so I have to get really good at forecasting, which coming from a very CapEx heavy environment on-prem can be really hard. IT people, I'm sorry, but we'd be terrible weather people. So what we need to be able to do is manage those costs And not only are those costs out there, they may be coming from different parts of your organization. If one team decided to go to AWS before everybody else did, they have their own account. And then when other parts of the organizations went out, they also have their own account. How do I see all of those together? AWS has organizations, Azure has subscriptions, Google has a form of organizations, but it's still very much driven back to one main account. At Expedient, we have our own tenancy, and it can get really messy really quickly depending on how your organization went to the cloud in the first place. And finally, how do I actually get my platform to have the policies and procedures and compliance that I currently have on premises today? If you're on premises today, you've probably gone through many, many audits, right? HIPAA, high trust PCI, SOC, high trust, ISO audits. All of these things come back to having a policy and procedure set that you are complying to. And so for our sort of world going into these multiple clouds, how do I do the same thing, but out there? And how do I not add yet another environment to go make compliant that compares to my on-prem environment? And these are just three of the big pieces. There's also management, security, cost management, data management, and networking that can make multiple clouds have multiple problems. Today, I'm going to focus on one of them, and that's cost management. And really, when we think of cost management, we have to think about, where is your money going? Because honestly, spending money in AWS and Azure at the same time is not a bad idea. The challenge is, how do I manage that going forward? And one of the things that cloud has actually enabled is unknown spending. In the past, all IT spending went through IT. So if I wanted to know how much we were spending on any sort of technology, I'd go look at my IT budget and I would say, okay, we spent $1 million this year across our business. With the cloud, anybody can go out there with a credit card, a procurement card. Maybe they're doing it with POs and they figured out that through finance or through accounting without talking to anybody in IT. And so other parts of the organization have gone out there. This isn't just infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. This can even be things like software as a service. And we at Expedient, we're just as guilty of this as anybody, right? We will go use Monday.com. That doesn't go through a central organization. We use that for planning and project management. We've since gone back around and actually put controls and identity and those sorts of things. But we've seen that even inside of our own smaller organization. In same size and large organizations, you may see the same thing. And so that unknown spend can be really, really hard. And not only that, you have multiple bills and multiple organizations, like I mentioned earlier. And without any sort of tooling, the best way to actually go about doing this is to go to accounting and you go talk to Mary, and Mary's a nice lady. And you say, Mary, how much have we spent in Amazon this month? And then she can go pull how much money got spent to Amazon. That may be Amazon Web Services for cloud things, but that may also be office supplies getting purchased from Amazon Business. It's all going through the same company. And so trying to find your true cloud spend can be really, really hard. And if you don't know your true cloud spend, it makes it very, very hard to optimize those costs. How do I know that this instance is the right size? I don't even know that instance exists. How do I know that I've overspent over here because I've built this instance and I forgot about it? These are the sorts of challenges that we run into all the time when you have different organizations going out. So what can we do? We can put some tooling around it. And that's Expedient Cost Control. We can get a full cost overview. I can connect all of the accounts together and get a real-time picture of my true cloud spend across all of my accounts. I can see things like how many instances I have, how many VMs I'm running, how much I'm actually spending, and utilize the pricing APIs with your cloud accounts to get your pricing to show you your true spend. This can also surface things like, oh, hey, this instance is out there. Who ran that instance? Oh, we should probably go look into that. And if you get down to the point of grouping and tagging things, I can actually see who did it, or I can at least see which business unit ran it. And if you go back and watch our webinar that we did with Joe Daly from Nationwide, you can learn all about the financial ops or FinOps of how to actually make this work people and process-wise inside your organization. Your C-suite and directors may want to see some of these reports. They may want to see how much we spent this month, how much we spent this week, and they can get those reports sent directly to them so they don't have to log in and try to navigate the whole interface. They get the report and the data that they're looking for. You can also run those on demand. I don't know why on demand was different, but on demand is there. And they can run those on demand and say, hey, I want to know right now, what are we spending? And someone can go in and click run and it'll push the report to them. So it's not just on that initial schedule. The other thing we can do is analyze costs in real time. I can look inside of the interface and see how much I'm spending in private clouds, how much I'm spending in AWS, how much I'm spending in GCP, how much I'm spending in Azure. I can even group things to say the accounting organization uses AWS and Azure. So I can just see what accounting is spending. I can even tag and see what maybe prod looks like. So this is all of my prod workloads across all of my clouds, and I can get much more granular than just what is my total spend. But enough slides. We're here to do things as a live demo. And in fact, I would like to stay logged in. So that's just how live this is. It almost kicked me out. But this is our cost control platform. I have the ability to see across the board where all of my things are, and I can monitor things with agents that live inside of the instances as well. So what we can do is actually see what are our storage use, what are our RAM use, what's our CPU use, and we can actually drive this all forward. But what I'll start with here is reporting. And I have a number of different pre-built reports that you can go use. The big one that a lot of people really like is cloud costs. You can see that we run this fairly often. I'm just going to pick this one because it was run, I believe, yesterday. And I can see that I have 5 clouds. I've got 22 instances, and I'm spending $2,900. And I can see per cloud what I'm spending. This is actually, and in fact, with Expedient Enterprise Cloud, you see per location how much you're spending. And this can actually be a really great way to see what's really out there. Because if I've got this $50 cost and I've got 2 nodes hanging out there, I probably want to look and see what those are. If I've got $23 or $24 being spent in AWS and I don't remember spending up anything, I can go out and look to see what those 3 discovered VMs are. And that may be a way for me to see, hey, this didn't go through our normal deployment method. Somebody deployed this outside of that. I need to go destroy that. These are ways for you to actually see that reporting up front. But I can also go look at analytics. And I can dive very, very deep on these. So we can start again at the top with generic cloud costing, and I can even project out because it's June 3rd. I haven't spent that much, right? I've spent $210 month to date because it's only been 3 days. But I can see that projected this month, I'm going to spend $2,300. And that can change based on how many VMs get spun up, how many instances and where they get spun up, what type of instances those are, and that projection will change over the course of the month. So I can see here that I do a lot inside of Expedient Enterprise Cloud. It's a great cloud. You should try it. But we do a lot in here because this is, connected to what we do all day long, and it's showing a real workload inside of there. But we're also growing. We have some things in Azure. We have some things in AWS. And I can see that I've spent $1.84 in Amazon this month so far. Projected to spend about $21. So I can see my projections per cloud as well. One of the other things we can do is search by group. And this Expedient group is an app group inside of our organization. And we can see that they've spent $122 up front inside of this environment. I can see that we've spent $154 inside of these 4 groups. And if I just click on Expedient, I can see that they've only spent $122 and all of it is inside this group. That's the 122 or the 100% in that $122. And I can also project out based on those groups. So I can say, hey, the accounting group is spending $29. They're projected to spend $325. Their budget's $250. We should probably look into that, right? And I can drive down those costs per group. We can also do user costs, so I can see who deployed what and where. And I should probably talk to Mike and Mike here about what they're deploying and why it costs so much. But we also have a number of things that have been discovered because they were deployed and brought into our cost control platform before we were actually deploying through it. So there are some other things that you can do there. We can also get down to tags. We don't have any tags set up, but there's also the ability to do tags, things like test, prod, dev, and actually see all of that going forward. One of my favorite parts, though, is guidance. I love the guidance function because it has the ability to tell me how I can go save money. I'm going to pick on this box here. This is a do not delete box that we have. It's actually been doing a lot of our demos inside of our environment, and we thank it for its service. But what we have is it's configured with 16 gig or 32 gigs of RAM, excuse me. And we can drop this down to 16 gigs because we're only really using like 3 or 4 gigs of it. Still have plenty of headroom, but I'm going to save $112 a month. That $112 turns into $1,200, almost $1,500 over the course of a year, and that's $4,500 over the course of 3 years. That's a big deal. That's actual real life savings. And then multiply that by more than one VM, and you can see how you can start to grow this cost savings and right size your environment. We're in cloud environments where you can scale up and scale down much more easily than you can on-prem, and this is the way that you can go do it. I also have the ability to click that execute button to actually go do it. And this is one of the big challenges with something like AWS, where that's not as easy to do, to actually shrink an instance size, because you're not shrinking the instance, you're actually spinning up a new one and connecting your storage to it. So what you have to do is take a snapshot of the VM, destroy the existing instance, bring up the new instance, and reconnect that snapshot. And that can be fraught with peril, and many mistakes can be made. With the execute button, you actually have the ability to go do that in an automated fashion. One of the other capabilities here is approvals. And I'm actually going to jump over here to policies to show that. So Rob is our VP of pre-sales engineering and has decided that he is going to be the main approval for all internal workflows. So hopefully when I deploy something next, I'll have to IM Rob and let him know that I'm doing a deployment. But I can also set up other policies. So say Mike, one of our mics, is doing a deployment, and I see that he's really spending a lot of money. I can set up a budget at the per user level and say that Mike can only spend $50 a month. And this is a way to put guardrails up, not stop signs, to help people maybe make better choices or maybe ask a little bit more before they start deploying things. Now, I do trust Mike, and I'm not going to actually put this budget in, but these are the things that you can do. You also have the ability to say, set up that budget, maybe not per user, but per cloud, right? And let's say I'm going to pick Google Cloud here. Maybe I only want to spend, $750 a month inside of Google Cloud. I can set that budget, and then anything over that requires approval. And so if this is really a secondary cloud, or this is a special use cloud because we want to use Google's big data query or BigQuery, their service, I can focus on just using that and not on anything else, and eliminate people using it as a primary cloud and expanding my cloud usage without expecting to. We also have the ability to do things at provisioning time. So I have a number of instances here, and I'm going to click Add, and we're going to pick a new Linux OS. Now, our Expedient group is a big application group. They have access to all the clouds. The other groups may not have access to that. In fact, if I go back and click on accounting, accounting only has Expedient Enterprise Cloud 701. Or our marketing group has access to AWS and Azure. They don't have access to EEC. So we can actually spin this around group-wise to allow deployments to only happen to certain locations. So here I'm going to pick ACM because I happen to really like our ACM data center, and I'm going to put AJK test 1. And now inside of here, we have our plans, and I can see how much this VM will cost me to run 2 cores, 10 gigs of RAM, and 10 gigs of storage. That's $71 a month. If I click on this little $sign, though, I can compare across all of our clouds at time of deployment. And I can say, hey, actually it would be better if I put this on Google. I should probably go put this back on Google because that's maybe cheaper. Cost isn't the only thing. Maybe you're deploying to expand an existing application that lives in one of those clouds. But this is a way to compare at time of deployment and make the right financial decisions up front, and actually see things like if I change this from 10 gigs to 100 gigs, I can see that my costs change here to show that I have additional storage included, right? And so maybe things that were close, maybe are less close now. I can go through and finish off this deployment. I can also set patch windows to say, hey, as part of our patch automation, that's the platform that, or that's the group that this is going to go into. And it can make it simpler to manage the platform overall. And finally, we support a ton of clouds. We support a number of additional clouds here. We can even support on-premises workloads with vCenter, so we can deploy on-prem and be able to take on those on-prem costs as well. And we can work with you on setting up the custom price card to make that work. We have a fantastic platform with Expedient Cost Control to get full cost overview, scheduled or on-demand reports, analyzing costs in real time. And as you saw, budgets, approvals, ability to see things at provisioning time, setting guidance to right size and continuously optimize. It is an incredibly capable product, and we would love for you to get your hands on it. So what's next? We're going to have you go out to expedient.com/services/assessments. You can sign up for a free assessment to show what cloud your workload should land in and how to be the most successful with that. And we can also go to expedient.com/services/multi-cloud to see our full multi-cloud cloud different message and how you can figure out how to do cloud differently. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. Before I open it up for questions though, because I want to make sure that I have time to do this. Today is Karen's last day doing these webinars. Karen has done these webinars with me this entire time throughout this entire pandemic. She is the person who puts all of this together, all of the logistics, make sure that your questions get into the chat or get from the chat panel, the Q&A. She's doing all the follow-up. She's the person who sends out all the invitations. She's the one who makes all this happen. I just show up and talk. So thank you, Karen. Please, everybody in the chat, please go out and thank Karen. Please destroy the chat with thank you, Karen. I really do appreciate everything that she's done for us. Thank you so much, Karen. Now, it's question and answer time. Can I get daily or real-time cost reporting on cloud usage by workloads, container, and maybe other features? So there is workload costing in there. There are different ways that we can actually go in and see that. In fact, where did it go? There it is. So we can actually go in and dashboard, analytics. So there's a number of different things here. We can see like instance type, and I can see, you know, all of my Windows VMs cost me X, our CentOS VMs cost us Y, and we can actually go down and drill into a number of instances per type. So if I want to say, I want to see all of my Ubuntu VMs, can I not do that? Instance. So Amazon Linux, I can see that I'm spending $1 per month on that. There are other ways to do that. So there are ways to do this. We can see it by team and actually drill down in there. Can I slice by time, month, season, or local hour? At that point, you're spinning things up and spinning things down in a very, very, very automated fashion, which is very, very great. But in order to do that, you can see the price up until the instance stops. Once the instance stops, it'll drive down from there. So you can really see it at the month level. If you drive down into it, you can actually see the instance, I believe, inside of the instance types. Let's just go in here. We'll pick this one. I can see my cost per month. And I think inside of here, there's a way to do that. But really, everything's based at the month level because most people who are spinning up instances and leaving them running are usually doing reserved instance types. So you can see how much you're spending per month. Getting down into lower levels may require some additional automation. Does cost control take into account long-term cloud storage, such as Azure cold storage? This is tied directly to the instances and specifically infrastructure as a service. We're working on how to do additional costs with additional platforms as a service, things like Azure functions, those sorts of things. But in terms of account long-term storage, like Azure cold storage, that's in the Azure or AWS Glacier and archive level storage, which would be outside the purview of this, but it's definitely something that we can look into on how to potentially pull those costs in as well. How many of your customers don't even know how many cloud platforms they're depending on? All of them, probably. If you really think about, this is something I love to point out, software as a service is also not run in their own data center. So like Salesforce.com is on top of AWS. A number of various platforms sit on top of other cloud providers. So they may not be directly using it. This is what I like to call the software as a service middleware, where you have a software as a service sort of thing that prevents you from seeing directly what sits on top of that. Like Office 365 sits on top of Azure. They don't run on AWS, they don't run on Google Cloud, they run on top of Azure. So you don't necessarily see what's behind it. So you may say, oh, we don't have anything in Azure, we don't have anything in Google. You do, but it's behind a software as a service layer, and the contracts and data privacy, data protection is usually inside of those contracts, and it's less technical and more legal. Spent a lot of time thinking about that at previous places. Are reports customizable? Yes, I believe they are. We can work with you on, if there is a custom report that you want to build, we can work with you on how to potentially go build that. My internet is being kind of slow today. Doing great with the video, not so great here. It did this on Zoom this morning. So, but this is something we can do. We can definitely look into how to do custom reports. A lot of these are pre-baked, and because they're pre-baked, they actually do a lot of things like hypervisor inventory, maybe some migration planning. These are actually pre-baked in here, but we can work with you on how to build a custom report. And then we talked about the real-time cost reporting. That is all the questions. I do thank all of you for joining. We did make sure to join us next week, June 10th. At 12:30, we're talking to Bob Evans of Cloud Wars, Gene Torres of Zerto. I will not be here. You will be in the very capable hands of our Director of Marketing, Tim Kanatis, and also Mike Fulton, our VP of Product Strategy, will also be on with there to help you figure out how to position your organization in a multi-cloud world. Please bring your best questions. Please try to stump Bob and Gene. They're incredibly smart. Try to stump Mike too. They're incredibly smart people, and we really do appreciate their time and joining us to help our customers, help you guys get to where you want to go. Again, you can go to expedient.com/services/assessments or expedient.com/services/multi-cloud to learn more. I thank you. Please enjoy the webinar next week. I will be out, and we will see you then. Thanks.